Just background, I know all of you probably know this. The 4 years that I've been a commissioner, I've had numerous resident concerns about Earlington Road, about traffic safety, about pedestrian safety. These are concerns that have existed well before I was commissioner. It was Commissioner Connell had the same thing, Commissioner Broidel. So these are longstanding. There have been meetings in the past. We did have a meeting this past November, the police department, with a lot more residents. There was less COVID going on at the time. And that from that meeting, one of the takeaways was that, the police, we talked about traffic studies, and there's actually been another traffic study since that meeting. But I think a lot of residents wanted to also have PennDOT here. It is a state road, and a lot of what changes that were suggested or questions about whether things could be done would fall to PennDOT. So I think I'm going to turn it over to them now. If you want to, before we open for questions, if you want to have any comments.
Should we start with a question, maybe just kind of lead into, would that be better? Do you have, rather than just trying to blurt out certain, because is there specific questions? Just like,
yeah, so we're going to ask if people have questions.
And then we can kind of like,
because it is being taped, I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium and just give your name and address, and then feel free to ask any questions from here.
Hi, I'm Stacy Tomaszek. I'm at 204 Earlington Road. And my, question or my presentation of my concern is specifically at the intersection of Covington and Earlington. There are lines, pedestrian lines, but specifically that road, not only for people leaving their car, like right above the hill, it's very, very difficult for sight lines to see cars coming. Cars tend to speed up to get up the hill. I used to work at night and the cars would go speeding by. But specifically, I was hoping that we can get some type of stop sign or some type of blinking pedestrian. That's a very specific, obviously I live 4 doors down, so that's of personal interest, but also on one side, Covington leads you to, it's a pathway to the Grange Estate, which is a huge popular spot. And then on the other side, Covington leads you to Chatham Glen Playground. And there's also on the other side of Chatham Glen Playground, there's the Chatham Park Elementary School. So it's just a highly used intersection that I fear, sometimes I just feel like I'm taking my life, or I'm just waiting there for 5 minutes to wait, for a path. So that's specifically why I'm here, is for that road. So I think, yeah.
real quick, are there currently signs, pedestrian crossing signs at the intersection?
There's no signs that I'm aware of. There are lines. There's two for each of those sides. Covington, yeah.
So they're aware, but I think that's the one that on one side doesn't have a sidewalk.
Correct.
Where that crosswalk is there.
Yes.
So that's the difficulties we face.
So
some of those sidewalks kind of end before they hit Arlington Road.
all right, so
There's a sidewalk on one corner on the Grange Estate side, but not on the other.
So when you're crossing onto anything, or is it crossing into a curb, or to just?
Help me out
Yeah,
here.
just you're crossing into a curve from
Tom.
west.
Okay, we're talking to this.
So from west to east on Covington, correct, yeah.
Yeah, so
You're gonna cross into a curve.
On the curb sign, you should ideally have a ramp or some way to get off of the major road, which you don't currently, you don't have that right now. So to have it painted, it's not an ideal crossing at that location unless you have it ADA compliant with a ramp and then somewhere to get off.
And that's a problem we face over the years. We try to help the residents down, but a lot of times they don't meet the standards, and we know that. We've been trying to rectify that so we don't have these abnormalities where it's not proper. So these are the things we're facing, as you well know. We explained last time that we're not always able to do everything that people request or could be put there just because of the way things were built,
Sure, yeah.
years ago.
Could you cross Covington? What's the other side look like? There's 4 lanes, there's,
The two sides of the roadway do have a off-ramp where they would be able to come up. It's the one on the northern section of the roadway where it does not. It leads to.
What about the southern end? Does that have something that leads to a crossing there? Or not?
Yes, it looks like there's a handicap accessible ramp on both sides.
And that's where you want everybody to cross and maybe remove that other crosswalk and just update the one where where the ramps are.
I'm going to make some notes on this, Joe. So.
There's two crosswalks painted on the road? Yeah.
Let me show it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
You have a ramp there, probably old-fashioned one, but,
It
and
exists.
there is one on this side.
Okay.
Also, but then over here we have one, but that
There's
shouldn't be
nothing
there.
on that side.
So I would remove this and just have them cross here and have signage at this location.
Okay. And I think the signage is part of the question. It's also what can be put there, so.
Yeah, and we met Manoa Road, where we sent some stuff.
Road down there.
Right, about, and
like Shattuck School, talk about there, but, yeah, so, you understand what we're saying, there's
Yeah.
two crosswalks there now, one of them has to go, but really it shouldn't be there. Should be one crosswalk where the ramps are.
And then the signage we would have the request come from the municipality to approve the pedestrian signage at the crossing itself. And then we'd have advanced signage that could be added as well ahead of the crossing. So it would give the drivers warning that someone may be crossing at some time. Because right now, there's nothing except for the painted lines in the road, which, you can add stuff, the signage would definitely help.
What kind of signage are we talking about, so I know?
Signs?
What kind of signage are we talking about?
Pedestrian signs with
Pedestrian signs.
the arrow pointing down towards the crosswalk.
Okay.
From both directions. But we'll get the request that we'll mark the roadway for you or the
Okay.
locations and then send an email with that information.
Okay.
Are we talking about flashing?
No,
Just pedestrian crossing sign.
because right now you have nothing sign-wise, so try that and see where that goes.
Another thing that would bring attention to that crosswalk is to do the piano keys, I guess is what they called.
Right?
So you just do it on the southern end and give motorists a better idea of where that crosswalk exactly.
You know, he's referring to the big hash marks and they'll cross.
Instead of the two
It makes it stand out
white
better.
lines, yeah, we call them piano keys.
It's continental crosswalk.
crosswalks is the
and,
official
But
term.
it's visual, you'll see that.
Yeah,
drivers-
and when those are there, and if there's signage, is it the same thing where like it's illegal for, not illegal, but like, vehicles are meant to yield to pedestrians?
Yes,
that-
they're supposed to
Supposed to.
yield.
That's the intention
But
between,
any crosswalk is properly marked and properly signed. Vehicles are supposed to yield. Supposed to, by
Right.
law. You know what happens
right,
sometimes. Okay.
right. But that gives us the authority to be like,
Yeah.
in the road, to be like, at least, okay. That would be a step in the right direction. And out of curiosity, the flashing lights, are those not possible on Arlington, or?
They're possible, but that's something that has to be approved, the flashing warning device, and we'd have to get a request from the municipality.
I believe we need to fill out the.
And you have to,
T160 form.
there's an application that has to be filled out, and it's correct, T-160.
That's a township expense to install that, correct?
I'm sorry, say it?
That's a township expense to install those, though?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, guys.
Just on a follow, so there's another street up from there, Devon, is also a relatively higher pedestrian cross, which would be another place where, I mean, if you were going to put in flashing lights, you would try to pick the area where the most,
I did drive it before I got here, and I did notice, I can't remember the intersection, but I did see a flashing pedestrian sign. Was
and
it
that's at
Covington,
Devon,
or was it Devon?
right.
Was Devon?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Devon.
And I guess my question is, if you had one at Devon and there's one at Covington, which is another block or so down, is that too many? I mean, can you do it that close?
it's an expense. I mean, it's
I think the sign that
up to the
that
task.
Jerry's referring to are the signs that we install that are the ones with the LED lights in them. They're not the quote PennDOT approved signage.
Oh, those are the other ones. Okay, so it's not
I think it is solar.
Yeah, it is.
they're on the side, the sign itself.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's different than the flashing, like I'm thinking more of a, and that still has to be approved. It's still a flashing warning device, but
They can be approved to be installed though?
it's for safety, yeah, it still has to be approved through PennDOT.
Right, but
Because
they're a lot
those-
cheaper than
There's some
the,
issues with those lights, LED light, whatever, they're around the sign, because some they don't work, at times, but so they have to be approved. It just depends on,
and the process for that is to send a letter to PennDOT for that?
it comes through PennDOT.
As we normally do
Anything-
for
Anything
requests.
flashing has to come through PennDOT for approval.
Okay.
So Tom Lipko, 413 Earlington Road. So you were talking about the piano keys at Covington. Is that possible at Devon as well?
It's up to the municipality, but yes, I mean, it's
Because, you know, there's a median sign there, yield to pedestrians. We do have a painted crosswalk, but I got to tell you, it's minimal effectiveness.
are there signs there? Well, you said there's a sign.
Yeah, there's a median, there's the flashing sign there, there's a yellow crosswalk. But any additional flagging, if you will, would be very helpful. The other question I have is, there's going to be a play area, a recreation area, where the school used to be. So how is traffic going to be controlled around that?
Would have to go back to the,
Yeah, I think until there's
Until we have like a plan or anything, I don't know if I'm sure we'll do traffic studies and stuff on, like on that there before we
right, yeah,
will do anything there.
Right. Because I think something's going to have to be done there.
right, yeah, so Arlington, there was Brookline School was on Arlington Road, it was been taken down. There are a lot of different proposals, but one that hopefully happens is that the park that was there is expanded. So it may impact traffic in and out of there. So I'm sure that would be something we would need to, before we finalize that, reach out to PennDOT.
I'm sure that's even being looked at now in ideas with the parks department, if they're even
Right.
looking at things.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an issue, though. The other thing, I was reading the report that you had sent out, and so it said the average daily vehicular traffic on Arlington 400 block was 6,747, less than 1% over enforceable speed limit. Excuse me. So that would be, 1% would be 67 cars, less than 1%, 3/4, 50 cars a day. Per week, that's 350. So to me, that's not a low number.
I'll let the police speak.
The way you're reading that study, you're taking the numbers and you're putting them all together. What that is broken down over the course of the whole week of the study, and that 1% is of all those cars that were driven down that roadway. Right. So the number is not, you're saying the number is larger than what it is, it's the 1%. And the enforceable speed limit is, we have to give 10 miles per hour of the speed limit. So, and the 1% would be only of all those cars that were traveling over those 10 miles per hour.
So
1% of
Could I, Tom, could I get you to come back up, because we're taping it, and then we'll, thank you.
So the 1% of the daily 6,747 would be 67 cars per day, but less than 1%, let's say it's 50 per day over the enforceable limit. And then per week, that's 350 cars. It's a lot on the street.
in the course of a week, you're saying 50 a day. Now, Officer Marchesani is here for a reason, not just window dressing. He's the one we assign down there to when he's writing tickets, and he works with the clicker ticket, the federal program.
Right.
So you see him out there with our on-call radar devices, are machines in the street that counts the speed of the cars. And Tony, you're there a lot.
We're there at least throughout the course of the year between the 1600 block of Earlington and the 400 block of Earlington. We're probably at that site about 20 times out of the year. And we're there from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night enforcing the speed. And usually during the course of that 4 hours, they may get about 6, 7 citations during that 4 hours. So there's lots of times where I'm standing there just waiting for somebody to,
Right.
we give 35 to 40, sometimes 39, 40, we pull over. But when I'm there for 4 hours, it's about 6 or 7 citations that are issued for
Right.
that speed.
And I appreciate your efforts, but there's 20 other hours in the day, so I'm just taking the numbers from the
Right,
report
I
you
mean, I
sent
guess
out.
the question, and I don't know this, I'm thinking that if you did that to any of the major roads in the township, it would be one, I mean, I'm not sure, it'd be nice if it was 0, but
Right.
I don't know what's realistic to aim for.
I don't know what's realistic, but we know that a lot of parked cars have been totaled as a result.
And I won't disagree with you. You have a fair number of accidents, but a lot of them, or most of them, are not from speeding. It's from driver error, drunk driving, looking at your cell phones, things like that. And yes, cars are getting wrecked down there, but most of those, we don't attribute those to speeding. We attribute to driver error. And 2 or 3 of them have been drunk drivers. Other ones have cell phones. We've had a couple with the medical emergencies where something happened.
the pole.
They crashed into a car. So yes, I'm not discounting the fact that you have your fair share of accidents there.
Yep. So, and you're right, distracted driving may be the primary, but I think speeding is certainly secondary.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Mimi Kavanaugh. Just wanted to bring up to the PennDOT fellows. I too live at Covington and Earlington on the Grange side. My daughter and one of her friends are in 7th grade at the middle school here, and they still do not. My daughter's friend, her mother and I will meet, the girls will walk home from middle school and we meet them across the Earlington intersection at Chatham Glen, because neither of the girls feel safe crossing from one side of Earlington to the other at the Covington intersection. And as was just mentioned, on one of the corners of the Covington intersection, there's only it's a curb to someone's property, not an actual sidewalk. And, you drop down on the other side of Covington, and yes, there are 2 sidewalks, but the one on our side of Covington, there's like, kind of like thick bushes. So it's very hard to see around. So the girls are like afraid to like cross back and forth. Which is crazy because like at their age, they should, should feel safe. So I was just wondering if PennDOT could because a long stretch of Earlington too doesn't even have a sidewalk for like once the girls do cross. If like a study could be done by PennDOT to see if it's like truly safe for pedestrians, Earlington Road. Because the fact that there are a fair number of people that do speed on the road, there are drunk drivers on Earlington Road, people checking their cell phones while they're driving, kids trying to, there are 1,600 kids in the middle school over here. Some of them have to cross Earlington to get to our side of the township. There are a lot of kids trying to cross, a lot of kids don't feel comfortable doing it, and I'm just wondering if PennDOT could do a study to see if it's a road that's actually safe for pedestrians.
So, yes, I can answer that. So specifically speaking for students going to school, we have PennDOT, we have regulations or guidelines that, for school student walking routes. So what that is we determine upon request from the school district, not the municipality, but the school district would request to PennDOT a school student walking route, meaning that they submit, it's a questionnaire paperwork from point A to point B, either from the school, from the student's home to the school, or to a bus stop. We determine that route, and it's mapped out. The school district would send a map to us, highlighting or showing us the route from point A to point B, and that's what we would look at to determine if it's safe for students to walk or cross at a certain intersection based on PennDOT regulations, which is in actually one of our publication 46, and anybody could look this up, but it's PennDOT publication 46, chapter 7. So if I can talk to you after this and give you that, but you can go to our website, you can find that information. But it has to do with the number of vehicles on the road. Is there a crossing guard at certain intersections? Is it safer? Are there sidewalks? Is a student crossing or walking down the road where there are no sidewalks? A lot of it's based on the volume
Yeah.
of the roads. So, but that's what we would look at upon request from the school district.
So,
And it's usually goes to the transportation coordinator or director, whatever their title might be.
okay.
I believe that, I want to speak for the school district, I believe they have already done those because of school bus routes, and that's how they determine which routes and bus stops. So I think if you contact the school bus transportation department down the Hilltop Road, you could probably get some help with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much.
And that would come, to me as far as the request to our study section at PennDOT traffic unit, but
It would,
the request comes directly to the traffic unit.
okay, very good. And
I'll talk to you after you like. I'll
Very
give you
good, okay.
information for this.
thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you know if that's done? And typically, does the school district tell students or parents, this is the best way to safe route home?
Jerry, I don't know that exactly for sure, but I know that when they plan their bus routes, they look at that for safest walking areas, how far, and it's all incorporated. And so I don't know all the details of it. I know when we are assessing, reassessing every year, as you well know, with our crossing guards, we also try and come up with that criteria. We monitor intersections because we've been losing crossing guards, like everybody else is losing employees, so.
Other questions?
So I think, just to recap, on the recreational area, you were talking about the study for pedestrians and school children. So what will be the ensuing steps on that recreational area?
Not sure exactly what's going to happen, but is there going to be like new driveways involved? Do you know?
Yeah, we're not sure. There is an existing park there, and there had been a school there. The school is down. If the park is expanded,
And that's when,
I would,
Other new access points or
right.
something?
I mean, I will tell you, there was talk of a library going there, which hopefully that talk's done, but
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
That
I'm on that page.
when there was talk of the library, if we had gotten to the next stage of, okay, we want to go ahead, we were going to have to put traffic studies and send them to PennDOT and say, we're doing something different here. What do we need to do? Can we do this?
Right.
So the same, I'm gathering the same would be necessary if we go ahead and expand the park.
Okay, so some kind of study is going to have to transpire.
Right.
Okay.
There might be something called, it's a highway occupancy permit that's required that you might have to get approval to do maybe a new driveway entrance or something like that, but that would all be looked at, upon
I think it's
request.
more from my perspective, kids starting to gravitate towards that site.
Sure.
And so not necessarily being cognizant of a crosswalk or a driveway or what have you, but just kind of, there's my friend, shortest line. That's my concern.
Yeah, I can, sure, if we go ahead with the part, one of the things that would be, it goes to the township engineer to look at what we need to do, and then if there are studies that, and typically there are, that PennDOT needs to look at, he forwards them to PennDOT from there.
Right. And then in terms of the piano keys at Devon and Arlington, is there some kind of study or where does that decision lie?
It's through the municipality, and there's, requirements as far as how wide the paint line should be and that kind of stuff, but that's all.
Okay, so
all-
that rests
all
with the
done
township.
Through the municipality.
Can I ask a question? What are you requesting at Devon Arlington? Maybe I didn't hear you the first time. What are you looking at there for Devon?
The piano keys that were discussed for Covington,
The continental crosswalk, instead of having the two lines, you have the diagonal lines. through.
Well, once again, that issue at that intersection is the same problem we have down the street. One side goes into the sidewalk, the other side goes in the grass.
right?
And that's where we lie with these kind of crosswalks that go nowhere, which is a problem for us. And I know, we kind of go like this and look the other way a little bit just so we can help the residents. But we had to make them legal at some point in time to make them, something happens there, we bear some responsibility then.
Right,
So it's got to be done properly.
right.
So I think that's what has to be addressed, Jerry and Connor, how we're going to do that.
And maybe, in terms of, speed monitoring Arlington in terms of ticketing, if 3 to 7 seems to be a lull, maybe stagger the shift.
37 is the high volume time.
Yeah,
High
but I'm
volume.
just saying, maybe the morning.
Okay.
Anybody else with questions? There was somebody who couldn't be here. He's actually an ER physician who's involved with traffic safety a lot. And he had brought this up before, and I think it went to you, but he asked me to bring it up again. Brookline intersects with Earlington. They're both state roads. There's one side of Brookline, it's a very short stretch. Brookline is 35 miles an hour, whereas Arlington is 25. There's a short stretch leading up to the light going towards Darby, so it's about a 1 block. And his request, there was a child who was hit there, ran out between cars. But people try to accelerate to get through the light, and his issue has been looking at whether that stretch could be changed to 25.
Well, what I would need from the township would be a request to do a speed limit study for that section of road to determine if it's warranted for reduction. So that's
I think we've done
that's
that
all
in
we
the past.
need.
If not, maybe we could do. And again, it's sort of revolves around that there was an accident there. Connor, do you have questions? There's nothing, anybody have questions from anyone else? I mean, I think we've kind of addressed the issues that have come up in our past discussions. I'll just put it out there. Some people look for some type of speed humps on roads. Is that something that's ever done on state road?
Unfortunately, not very often. I think there are a few state roads in the city of Philadelphia where it's been done, but Earlington Road is considered a major collector. And so by PennDOT standards, based on volume, we cannot do that. I think it's an issue of, I think a lot of motorists would try to divert to avoid the speed humps and bring traffic on more of the local roads.
Okay.
Unfortunately, speed humps are not. One thing we did think of, perhaps we could try to enforce the speed limit by putting legends 25 miles per hour on the roadway throughout the corridor. I believe we have that on Township Line.
Yeah, right.
35 miles per hour. So, yeah, we're trying to brainstorm and think of some low-cost safety things that PennDOT can do to try to mitigate some of these crashes.
That would be great. Thank you.
It's basically just paint. So you would see 25 mph in the roadway as you're driving over it. Basically wherever the speed limit signs are, just to help reinforce to the motorists that it is a 25 mile per hour roadway.
It takes up the whole lane, it's in big letters. So if you drive on Township Line, where it's been paved from Coles on up, you'll see it in the roadway there. It's very effective, because you catch it with your eyes.
All right, well, there's nothing further. Thank you very much for being here. You need to come up, if you could.
Anything else?
Thank you. Let's see, between Manoa Road and Township Line Road, there's one pedestrian crossing sign, and I'm trying to remember if that's St. Albans? That's right, yes, Devon. I don't know if it's PennDOT that installs that pedestrian sign, and it's actually like lit up around the border.
Yeah, so the pedestrian signage and other signs, but pedestrian signs, that's something that we would approve, but the municipality is responsible for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of those signs.
Okay, because I was just wondering, I mean, this is the opportunity to just like throw it out there, but I was wondering if another one could be put at Earlington and Covington, just
Yeah,
because,
so
I don't know.
It all
It's
goes back,
always-
if we get the request to look at whatever, pedestrian crossings, additional signage, speed limits,
You're talking the freestanding ones that sit in the street? The
Oh, no,
the ones that sit in the middle of the street? Like the ones that can knock over?
no, it's on the side, it's,
I think she's talking
Oh,
about
I
the
know.
ones
You're
that are
on the
that are
curb.
around the edges.
It's like a diamond shape, it's yellow, and it shows a pedestrian crossing, and it has lights
The blinking
around.
lights.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's pretty noticeable. That's really helpful. So I was just wondering if we could put one more between Manoa and Township
And again,
line.
as
Yeah,
Don was saying, that request would have to come through the township
the township.
and dot.
You mean that the township would make that request?
yes.
Correct.
We normally make a request through PennDOT, our traffic safety sergeant does that, and then once that goes through the process, it comes back and we install it. But we have to buy more of those signs, we only have a few of those, so.
Would that be a possibility to
Well, I
request?
think we're going to address that crosswalk, first of all. You're going to make some recommendations on that crosswalk at Covington. And we're going to take that one crosswalk out, am I correct with that? And instead of duals, one doesn't meet the criteria. We'll take that one crosswalk out and then improve the other one, the remaining one, and then request for the signage, proper signage for that crosswalk. Mike, did I hear that correctly
Yes,
when we talked about it earlier? Okay.
for Covington.
It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight like everything else,
Sure.
you know.
And also
course.
for PennDOT, we do plan on taking a more in-depth look at the corridor from Route 1 to Eagle.
Sure.
Just when I drove it coming up here, before I got here, I did notice, we could upgrade some like intersection warning signs, things like that.
Oh, sure.
Give, we can put them on both sides of the roadway. We can put up distance plaques, so approximately like 300 feet or however far it is to that intersection, just to, again,
That would be
give
great.
motorists a little more notice
Warning, yeah.
what's coming up, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I guess one more idea that came to my mind while she was speaking was, what about a camera on the light at Manoa and Earlington to nab people who are running that light? Because a lot of people do accelerate up Earlington to beat it.
We're not allowed to use cameras. We don't, it's first-class cities. We don't meet that criteria. They're not permitted.
So there's no exceptions at all?
Not for us, no.
It's city, right, first class.
Philadelphia is the only
Like
place I
first-class
know.
cities, I believe.
a few years ago that Springfield had them, but I think the law was changed since then, and they have removed them.
All right, well, I think, we've got some positive feedback and some suggestions for moving forward that hopefully will help with the traffic safety. And you're also going to be taking a look and see if there's other things that can be done. So, I mean, I think hopefully this is a productive meeting, and let's see how things go over the coming months. Thanks for being here.
I guess just to give a timeline as far as what we're planning, we're hoping probably by this summer, maybe we could have some low-cost safety measures.
And then again, the pedestrian signage and the speed limit study, we got the request today, we can get out probably in the next couple of weeks just to review and do, mark locations and make sure, and then do the study on that end. So that's something that can be done immediately. Well, soon, I mean, as soon as we get the request. So it's something's gonna be done now, some's gonna take some time, but. I didn't get anything recently for that, but I'll give you my name and contact the school district. We may have done something in the past, years ago. We have files on all the school districts throughout the district. But if it's something newer, we should, upon request again, we'll review it. And then go from there.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.